Hey cavies, welcome back to Barbie and the Caveman. Today is the little egg's birthday. He is all of 9 years old today. Where's the time go? So you probably see him in the background where he and the caveman are doing Sebastian's favorite thing, video game binging. Yes, but that leaves me time to cook, and cook I shall. Now with the end of April approaching, May is coming, and with that comes my very favorite type of food, Mexican food. So I'm gonna do a couple of different episodes on some of the greatest vegan recipes for Mexican food that I know of. So I'm gonna start with a Mexican corn chowder. It is so good, you're going to love it, you're going to make it tonight, I promise. So first thing I'm gonna do is take a deep quart pan and turn it on medium-high heat. Olive oil in the bottom. Now, I'm going to take one chopped sweet onion, throw it right down there, even before it starts coming up to heat. So, and then I'm going to take the white cuttings of one leek. Now this just throws more veggies down into the mix, and it has a really mild flavor, a lot like onion. So, if you don't have a leek on hand, throw in another sweet onion. Or heck, maybe not a sweet onion, maybe a yellow onion. You gotta do you, figure out what you like best. So there is the white of a leek. Now, as that comes up to temperature, give it a nice stir. Going to put a little bit of pepper. Grind, grind, grind. And a little bit of coarse sea salt. And I'm gonna move to working on my corn. Now, I get these little corns in the supermarket. They have them a lot, buy one, get one free. So I just buy the packs, the frozen packs, and I just boil them, let them cool, and then cut the corn off. So I'm gonna use 2 full ears of corn. So if you get the little teensy ones, that may be 4. The ones that I have, it's 3. And then just throw that over in the compost. So, just shave it off the corn with my big knife, and it comes out in little strips like this. So if you hear it, it's starting to come up to temperature, really starting that sizzle, and you're just gonna let it sit there until the onions start getting soft. You don't have to wait for them to brown. Really, you don't want them to brown. You want them to stay nice and soft, because we're gonna either throw them in the blender or use an immersion blender for half of it so that it gets really nice and creamy and smooth. Now, I use the corn cobs instead of the canned corn because it really opens up and helps the starch release from the little kernels of the corn, and it really gives it a much nicer, sweeter flavor, and that starch starts to really leach out into the soup mixture. So that's why I use it, but feel free to use canned if you don't have corn on the cob readily available. It's just really popular right now. It's really in season this time of the year for us, and I always try to take advantage of what's in season. Oh, trying to look for my cloth. Wiping off my hands, and here's how it's looking. Yep. You can see those leeks and the onions starting to cook down into the oil, and I'm just going to start chopping up the corn. Starting to smell nice, and I'm going to start adding in some herbs. So I've got some onion powder. Just going to do about half a teaspoon of onion powder. I've got ground ginger, about half a teaspoon of ground ginger. Paprika, again half a teaspoon. Oh, it's stuck. There we go. There we go. And for this I'm going to use minced garlic, and about a tablespoon of minced garlic instead of the garlic powder. It really just adds a little more it just adds a little more liquid to the mixture, and it helps blend really nice and easily. Starting to smell really nice. Now make sure you break open those leeks so that they're not just in little rounds, but you actually pull them apart so that they can cook nice and translucently. I can't can't wait. This is one of my very favorites. And there's lots of different ways that you can do it at the end with all the toppings and the seasonings. Now, while that is cooking a little bit, I'm going to start working on some of my toppings. Now, one of my very favorite toppings is to get a little avocado and just to chunk it so that you can put some nice chunks of avocado on top of this nice creamy soup. It's nice and warm, and then the avocado is so cool and cleansing. It's just wonderful. If you want, you can also make a guacamole. I'm going to show you how to make a guacamole in another episode, so stay tuned for that as well. So I have got my half of an avocado, and I just cut it longwise and then cut it like this, and the squares just pop right out. So it's nice and easy, and it doesn't get your hands all messy. Next thing I'm going to do is just use a little tomato. Now I'm not going to seed it, I'm going to leave it and just chunk it so that there'll be plenty of juices that'll run down on top of the soup, which just is so decadent. I'm just leave it kind of in the center of my cutting board. Giving it another nice stir. You can see how the onions are really starting to melt with the leeks, and the corn is just really starting to get nice and soft and falling apart. So I'm just gonna let that simmer for about 2 or 3 more minutes, and I'll check back. Again, we're back. Now look at this wonderful bubbling pot of corny goodness. Yum. So I am going to move to the next step of the immersion blender. Now I'm going to turn the heat off. I'm going to pull it a little off the eye, so that I'm putting the blender straight down in, whoops, and just moving it around and blending it. Now if you don't have an immersion blender, that's fine. Just pour some of this soup into your blender and blend about half of it, and then add it back to the pot. So you want to maintain a nice chunky texture, of course, because the chowder, but you want part of it to be silky smooth. There we go. Sounds like Tristan's treat a squirrel. Alrighty. So I'm just going to throw this over to wash. There, so we've got the immersion blender done. Now we're going to add this is just some organic whole wheat flour. Now it's already getting pretty thick, but I like the addition of the flour. It gives it a nice smoothness. So I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons, depending upon how liquidy or watery your mixture ends up being. And remember, the heat is off, but of course there is still some residual heat in the eye. So it is coming back up to a boil slightly. And so here's what we're working with. It's a nice chunky but smooth texture. You can still see a couple of the leeks and a couple of the onions, but for the most part, it's really incorporated nicely. Now our final little bit of chili powder, a little bit of hot sauce. A nice stir. And there is our chowder. So I'm gonna grab a bowl and show you how to plate it up with some of the options for your, all right, here we are. Now I've just got my nice bowl. I'm going to ladle in some of this wonderful, delicious soup. It is just smelling amazingly. I'm going to add a couple of tomatoes, a couple of chunks of the avocado, and some cilantro. This is how I like mine. And feel free to hit it with another hit of hot sauce. You can also add some bacon around for you're carnivore, or experiment with any of the other additions that you like that make you feel Mexican-y. All right, well, from my family to yours, from my cave to your home, have a great one. Remember, like, share, subscribe here on Barbie and the Caveman.